Welcome back to the Athlete Hackers Podcast. My name is Chris Schrade.
And my name is Mark Spellman. Today, we have a gentleman that's going to be on who is a former student athlete of mine, has now become a friend, and more importantly, is probably the reason that Chris and I sit here on a weekly basis doing the podcast. It is my honor and my pleasure to introduce Owen Salvestrini. Big O, what's happening, buddy?
What's happening? I appreciate this is actually the second time I've ever been on someone else's podcast. So Chris and you guys kind of maneuvering the conversation in ways you want to do. So this is the first time second time I've been on a podcast. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Is it weird sitting in that seat? You're not used to that, right?
It is kind of weird, and I don't want to. I have so much to say.
Listen, there's no script here, so if you need to take over, this becomes the Owen podcast. It is what it is, man.
Yeah, but this first time meeting Chris, but Mark has been, my former strength coach at Fairfield U has helped me tremendously during the college careers, and honestly has become a very good friend of mine. I would say the last couple of years where we got connected. We weren't talking for a while, and we're almost like the same people, really.
So for those that don't know, Owen has what we've got, a podcast, also Instagram, the Lion Breast Movement, and
I've changed it. It's now the Mental Strength Project. That's just me, analytics with Instagram and stuff like that. And the Lion's Breath was kind of getting people not understanding my direction. And on Instagram, people like to search if they're looking for mental health or mental strength, they'll search for it. So I've actually had a lot more people following me since I changed my name, because I think over the course of the last 5 years I've had the Instagram, that's the direction I've gone into: mental strength, mental health. And Mark and I have talked about this at length. I think this is the perfect time to really get into mental strength. I mean, with what's going on, all over the country and everything. So
for those that have not listened, all three of us have had some sort of physical ailment that has come up in our lives. Chris with testicular cancer, Owen dealing with some heart issues, and I've had some heart and some neurological issues that I've been dealing with. So all three of us can talk about how the physical aspect affects your mental, and how the mental affects your physical, and how they work kind of together. And that's kind of where I'm envisioning what we're going to talk about today. So for those that are coming to listen in, for those that are coming in and want to talk about sets, reps, and stuff like that, we might touch on that, but this is more about how we're going to take care of you with your physical and mental health. So anybody that wants to talk about, what they've dealt with, I mean, I guess I'll start. Approximately about 8 years ago, I was having some stomach issues, and I was doing payroll at the New Canaan YMCA, and I had to lay down on the floor because my stomach was hurting so bad. And then I went to the doctor, and they were like, "You got to go to the hospital. You have diverticulitis." And I was like, "Okay, whatever that is." Went to the hospital. They put me on. They put you on bowel rest, which is a nice way of saying that we're not going to feed you for a couple of days. They put an IV in, make sure you stay hydrated, make sure you get your fuel and all that stuff that way. It's a good way to lose weight. I think in 3 days I lost about 10 pounds. I don't recommend it for anybody. After that, I had to get the old intestines check. So I went and got that done. And when I was getting that done, the technicians were like, "Dude, you're an AFib. You need to go see a cardiologist." So I did that for a while. Went in and out, have been zapped about 10 times, have had 2 procedures done to try and keep me in normal rhythm. And then we had the neurological issue where I had T7 and T1 fused. And then I'm also dealing with some other neurological issues. But with all that being said, physical, it affected me mentally. And my ability to be physical was how I usually dealt with whatever was going on with me mentally. If I was having issues, if I was having a bad day, I would always go work out.
Right.
When I was at Fairfield University, I would always work out at the end of the day, so I didn't come home in a bad mood because of whatever happened during the day. So that's how I dealt with it. But to be told, hey, Mark, you can't work out for a couple months, I was like, you don't really realize what you're telling me, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is where Owen and I really hooked up, because I saw on his Instagram what he was talking about as far as mental health and dealing with that. And if you want to check those podcasts out, they are definitely on his site. They're long. They're long discussions.
Excellent. They're really good.
But they're open and honest.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's as you look at, we have 3 gentlemen here that we're 30, 40, and 50 years old. I think you're 30, right, Owen?
I'm 38. Yeah.
Okay. You're getting close.
I think.
But for all those people that are going through a hard time, because I've been there. Understand that whatever you're going through, it might and I'm going to use the Eric Thomas quote. It might last an hour, it might last a day, it might last a week, it might last a month, it might last a year or years, but at some point you're going to get through it. Like, you're going to get through it. And I know that's hard for people to hear that are going through a hard time, but I've been there. I mean, I have been there at the point of, am I being a good husband? Am I being a good father? Am I doing what I need to do for my family? And a lot of times I was answering that question like, I don't think I am. And as a man, like, that's a discussion. That's a very hard discussion to have with yourself.
Yeah. Very, very, very difficult. I mean, if I could just jump in quickly, because a lot has happened to me in the last. I started the podcast and I started the mental health thing because I think it's really, really important, and I have no problem telling people that I do take medication every morning to help with I was dealing with panic attacks. I have no problem talking about that. There will be people who will shame, I call them pill shamers, that says, well, you can't do this by yourself. Well, I tried as much as I could to do it by myself, and it wasn't working. And I decided that I needed to go on medication. And to be honest, the medication has helped me tremendously I have a very stressful job. I work in the operating room. I was dealing with panic attacks, and I started taking the medication, but the fact that I take the medication doesn't mean that's all I'm doing, right? I do a lot of meditation, and I started my page really it was basically, I started it as me and my buddy had wanted to put all these workouts up, really hard workouts that really tested your mental strength. And it blew up, and it turned into this thing where people were doing these workouts all over the world. And it became incredible. And back then it was called bloodshed training. And it was what it was for me. It was like Mark was just talking about. Mark and I are similar because what gets us feeling, I guess, relaxed or in a good place is working out. So these workouts on Sundays were long and grinding workouts, but what they did for me and everybody else was taught, okay, I got a 60-minute workout. It's going to be hard, but I'm going to get through it, right? And a lot of the people that took part in that enjoyed that aspect of, listen, it's Sunday. This is how I look at it. It's Sunday. A lot of people aren't doing anything. This is the time to step up and really test your mental strength. And I think for me, that's the most important piece. I just finished working out. Working out is a huge piece of my life. I mean, it's from the days, working out with Mark at Fairfield, like I tell people, if you're not working out, do it. Do something. Go for walks. Get a sweat. And like I said, even if you're going for a 20-minute walk, that has a major impact on your mental health.
Well, it's funny because like I listen to Joe Rogan and they do the Sober October, and he was talking with David Goggins, and he's like, after a 3-hour workout, you don't care. Like, you just don't care about anything because you've just put yourself through like torture for 180 minutes, and you're like, you go back into your house. Hey, this needs to get sure. I got you.
Sure.
Like I can do this. But I know, like, if I go a couple days without working out, I'm not that nice of a person to be around. Like, and and everybody knows it. Like my wife, we just came back from vacation, and this was probably the first vacation she didn't have to tell me to go work out because my 2 older children were like, Dad, we're going to work out. Okay. Great.
Yeah. And also, my wife is a former tremendous All-American track athlete, ran track at URI, just a tremendous athlete. And her and I are exactly the same. We deal with some anxiety. She's a better athlete for sure. I just found out, Chris, and I don't know, Mark, I've gotten to the boxing world. Like, I'm hitting that bag. And I just found out that she's actually better than me. So we're on this app and we can, see who has the highest score. And she's like beating my scores. So we have a little thing going on in the house. But with my wife, it's the same thing. It's, she was born and bred to work out. That was her escape, per se, right? To she has a very stressful job too. I'm not saying everyone doesn't have stressful jobs, but she works with older folks, physiotherapy at their home, and sometimes the only way to relieve that stress is to go hammer a workout. And right now, for me, is hammering the heavy bag. I am obsessed with it.
For the time being, if you want to make yourself feel better, I suggest you and your wife go do jujitsu. Because if she doesn't know anything, at least for a little while, you'll be able to use your size against her. It'll feel real good. But then when she starts learning technique, you're going to have to find something else because it's all over at that point.
I tell her, because she'll call, she's like, I just beat your score. And I'm like, listen, okay? I'm a heavyweight. All right? I'm a heavyweight. You're more of finesse and quick punches. I'm going in for that kill shot. I'm Tyson. Right? But it's fun. And Mark's on the mat. I just don't know. I've had 7 shoulder surgeries. I don't know if getting on the mat would be a good idea. I'd love to do it. So I know Mark you guys both are doing it.
I'm not in training right now. It's been a while, but by far anything that I've ever done, it's the best workout. Physically and mentally, but especially mentally, like Mark was saying, that after 3-hour workout, everything just kind of brushes off of you. When I was at my height training in martial arts, it's you don't recognize how much you can take until you stop doing it. And then you start that slow decline down. And I literally could see it through the years. Something would bother me and I'd be like, just 2 years ago, I wouldn't even recognize that was happening. So it's almost this double-edged sword sometimes, because some of the things I should have paid attention to, but I was so in shape and I was so strong that I could just let it go. There was things I was not dealing with because I was so strong, that when
are you talking about your mental, about the cancer?
No, even before that, just even way before that, just in general, things that would come up, family stresses, relationship stresses, things that I could just, didn't even pay attention to before, that I probably should have been paying attention to, just because I was so in shape and so fit and so strong. And I equate that mostly to jiu-jitsu. It's the martial arts in general that I did, but I know that just going to jiu-jitsu every day and struggling against someone else who's trying to dominate you is there's nothing comparable, you know, especially when you start being able to apply technique and get out of situations and survive. All of that just, you know, it comes into your system. It's what I think. It's my interpretation. A lot of the ancient martial arts texts talk about internal strength. You know, physical strength is your muscles and your bone structure, but internal strength is something spiritual, and that's what I feel I got out of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, because what's happening to me now is, you know, I played football. I lifted heavy weights for a long time. I took on this new sport of boxing that I never paid attention to. And I think what's helped me so much over the course of the last 6 months, which have been hell, is the boxing. Because like you were talking, you know, when you're on your mat, you're learning new things. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Like mental health and mental strength is like the idea that, listen, I had never done this before, but now look at me. I'm putting these combos in. I'm learning things. I think the idea of stepping, and we all talk about this, the comfort zone. Get out of the comfort zone. But that's very important, because what the comfort zone does is makes you do it, and it also makes you learn it, right? And I think what's really powerful for mental strength is learning something new. I think that's tremendous. I think that's like almost like, you know, it gives you something new to do. It gives you another outlet, right? And it gives you confidence in yourself that, shit, I never picked up boxing gloves in my life, but I'm doing all these combos now. And it just makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, on a physical and biological level, you know, when you learn new things, your brain is literally growing, and you know, your brain likes to grow. Like it's a way to get you out of funk, because you're stimulating everything, all the neurons inside your head.
Yeah, and like, you know, listen, when I was doing CrossFit, I loved CrossFit. I was in great shape, but it was the same thing over and over. I wasn't really learning much. I was just going in there, lifting heavy weights and going home. You know, with boxing, you know, boxing is a sport that teaches you how to use your head, right? It teaches you how to breathe correctly.
Yeah.
Okay. Because how the app has it set up is like, you're going to go 3 rounds. Say you're doing an 8-round workout. You do 3 rounds and they give you a minute rest, just like you would be in the ring. So no matter how hard you went for those 3 rounds, you better figure out a way to get yourself calmed down. And that's helped me out in the real world. It's like, okay, take a deep breath, because in boxing, they talk about breathing, you know, breathing correctly through your nose, out through your mouth, filling up your stomach. And it's helped me in every aspect of my life.
You should get the legs involved. Start doing kickboxing. That's going to take you to the next level.
Oh, so I'm starting to do that more. My wife, that's my wife's like favorite. She enjoys like the kickboxing.
Yeah.
And but I didn't realize too, just getting on this boxing thing is that, you know, throwing punches is like a tremendous core workout. You know, heavy punches. Like you look like you watch like a guy like Tyson or like Mayweather. I mean, Roy Jones Jr. I mean, those guys train. They're athletes, really. My whole thing is I have such a tremendous appreciation for those athletes that I had no idea about.
I think there's a couple things. One, Owen, you should be terrified if you go in and your face is all over the boxing bags, and your wife's in there punching and kicking them. To be very terrified of that. 2, I think the change up for you guys will be when you start working with a boxing instructor and you have to hit the mitts with them. But the biggest thing that I think all 3 of us have hit on with this is that you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right.
And that's the real big thing, you know. When
Definitely.
when I was doing jujitsu for like 3 years, every day, Monday through Friday, when I was working at the New Canaan Y. So my day would start off in the worst possible positions. So the rest of the day was like, whatever, nobody's trying to choke me or kill me or armbar me or break one of my legs off. But it was fun. It was like, it was a
Right.
good time. It was, it's the reason I'm bringing my children to it now. It's like, I want you to understand, like, you're going to be in bad positions in life. And
Yeah.
you have to be able to take a deep breath, figure out how to get out of this bad position and turn it into a good position for you. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what jiu-jitsu does. I mean, everybody gets in a bad spot. What are you going to do when somebody has your back and has you in a choke position? Well, you can't panic, because if you panic, you're going to get choked. If you don't move,
You're
you're going to
done.
get choked. So you better figure it out. Like there's
Right.
a counter to every move, and there's a move to every counter. So, the best way that most of the instructors that I've worked with, it's kinetic chess. So you're going to move one way, I'm going to move one way, I'm going to move another way, and at some point, one of us is going to catch the other person. And that's just the way
I
it is.
love
And
the
it's,
idea. I love the idea of the sport. I really do. I think it's tremendous. I don't know if you've heard my podcast, Mark. I had a guy named Adam Pekila. I went to high school with him, and he's big in the
told me
sport.
about him.
Yeah, and just like you were saying, I mean, you start something like that. It's 5 a.m. in the morning. Like the rest of your day is not going to be compared to someone trying to choke you out. So I mean,
Hopefully.
it gives you. It kind of brings me back to like people laugh when I say this, but I think this is really important. Is like you go back to like cold showers. I was taking them for a little bit, but the idea of a cold shower is I think it's very good for your anxiety. People say in the morning when they take it, they get rejuvenated. They get a little bit more energy. I find at night when I take it, I get more relaxed. But the beauty of a cold shower, if you tell someone, I am taking a cold shower, the first reaction is, why would you ever do that? Right? But I think whoever is asking that question is missing the point. Is we go back to the comfort thing. A 5-minute cold shower has such an impact on you mentally if you do it in the morning, because it's something that you have. You're like, oh God, I got to get in here. But when you get out, it's an accomplishment for you. You go into the day without even leaving the house, having already accomplished something that most people wouldn't do. And it goes back to the comfort level and et cetera, et cetera. Things in life, for me, for example, with this heart thing that I'm dealing with, and Mark, you talk about this, is shit is going to happen in life, right? You can either take a step back, sob, cry in your soup, or try to turn it into something positive, right? It's, for me with my heart thing is what is happening to me right now, and I'm going to eventually need my aortic valve replaced because I was born with a bicuspid valve, etc. Just found out about this. But for me, what it's doing is it's preparing me for the rest of my life. It's putting me through a very difficult situation that in reality, it's only going to make me a stronger person, right? It's only going to make me stronger. And at the end of the day, I have a 2-year-old son that needs me. I can't just throw my hands up in the air and say, oh man, I got this heart thing and I can't do it. I get off the couch. I can't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think the other things that come into play here, at least for my situation, is the fear. When I first got diagnosed with cancer, that was the biggest thing, was the fear that came over me and put me into an anxiety attack, because I was thinking about my kids and my wife. Mark, you've talked about this before. This is something we had similar, and I'm sure it's the same for you. But it's like, as a man, you put a certain amount of pressure on yourself to perform for your family. And when the possibility of that, the possibility of you not being able to do that comes up, that sent me into places I've never been before, because I've always been able to shake things off, go get a workout, and be able to, mentally get past whatever it was. This was something much, much different. Partially because there was a point in time where everything was up in the air, and was this something that was going to be benign, or was it something that's already riddled all the way through my body? And there was probably a good 2-week period, 3-week period where I didn't know. And I had to start finding other ways to cope with it. And, not being able to partake in physical activity, I had to do something else, which was meditate.
I was just going to say, what happened with me is meditation. I'm telling you, I've been doing it for the last 3 months, has helped me tremendously get through all of this, because there was a month where I had no clarity on what was going on with my heart. And meditating every single night was my outlet.
Well, and I think, there's a couple things. I meditate every morning as I go into work. I say the rosary, so 10 Our Fathers, 10 Hail Marys, 10 Glory Bees. No music, no nothing as I'm driving into work. So that's kind of sets my base for the day. Getting back on the cold showers, I use the importance of making your bed. It's stacking a win. The more wins that you can stack in a day, the better. And it might be for those people that are trying to lose weight. It might be, hey, I got a 20-minute walk in, or I didn't eat that donut, or it's like, you want to lose 20 pounds. Well, the first week, try not to gain any weight. Okay. First week, don't worry about losing weight. Don't put any more weight on. For those people for us that are dealing with mental stuff and physical stuff, I think a lot of the problem that happens is the information overload that you can get into.
Yeah.
When you start going down the rabbit hole of whatever physical ailment or whatever is going on with you, you start Googling things,
That's a bad place.
It's a horrible place.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe
a bad place to be.
What's up?
WebMD is a terrible place to go.
And here's the thing, maybe I was naive about this, but I didn't look at anything when I was going through all of my stuff. I didn't, I went to the doctors. They told me what was going on. They told me what they were going to do. They explained everything to me in detail. I got multiple opinions from doctors, different doctors, and everything like that. When you're sitting in a room and you have all these neuro people discussing what's going on with you, and none of them can agree what's wrong with you. I've told this story. Kelly and I were in one of the rooms with the doctor, and he's like, it could be this, and this. And my wife looked at him pan face and was like, I could fucking guess. And I just start dying. I was laughing my ass off because she had had enough. It was like, all right, you guys are getting paid. You guys are the quote experts. Let's figure out what's wrong and let's take care of it.
Yeah. The thing with the internet is, you can, I know from my experience, people said, don't go on the internet. And I mean, I could see that from my experience, because I would be up late at night, flipping through and getting more and more anxious, but it's almost this double-edged sword too, because you want to know what's going on. You want to figure out what's happening to you and why, so you could fix it, right? So you're almost trying to not diagnose yourself, but at the end of the day, you've got doctors that know what they're doing and they're smart, but they're humans. They
Right.
don't know everything, right? This whole thing, testicular cancer. If you were to have a cancer, you don't want any cancer. But if you had to have one, there's a lot of drawbacks to this, but testicular cancer is one of the most curable cancers. It's like 96 to 99% curable,
When caught
Yeah.
early.
but they don't know why it happens. There's
crazy.
like this small percentage, like if you happen to be like near a nuclear radiator and your balls touched it, okay, well then that's probably how you got it. Other than that, I was near
No,
nuclear radiation. I don't know how it happened, and no one does, but they know how to fix it. So there's this part about doctors and science. A lot of times people put them up on a pedestal, but they're human beings too, and they know the science so well. They know what's possible, what's not, but they're dealing
right.
with human beings, and they can't allude to all of that because they know that they could send someone into a panic attack.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, two things from that is one, I think all three of us on this conversation going through our hardships is, okay, we want to know what the F is going on and we want to fix it immediately.
Yeah.
Right? That's my mentality. Tell me what's going on. Tell me what I need to do to fix it. Okay. Don't sit around and say, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this, it could be that. Okay. I work with orthopedic surgeons. They're my customers. Okay. And I'm going to tell you point blank that, I would say 65% of them probably shouldn't be practicing. No, that's a little high, 40%. But what happens is when you have an MD at the end of your name, the population automatically assumes you know everything, right? You know how to fix this, you know how to do this, you know how to diagnose this, you know how to do all this stuff. But in reality, some of them know all the answers. Some of them are very, very smart. Some of them might not know all the answers, and some of them don't know all the answers. They're human beings just like the rest of us.
And the other thing that plays into that is complacency too. They go through all their schooling, they get their doctorate, they go through their residencies, but then that's it for some of them, not all of them. I mean, it's the same thing in everything. I was in construction, and I was a safety manager, and complacency was always the reason that someone got hurt or an accident happened. Period. End of story. And it's the same thing with doctors.
Right.
They get fed a line of stuff from corporations, what to give their clients, and what certain drugs to push and that type of thing from corporate America, and they just accept it. A lot of them don't do more research or you go that extra mile. You have great doctors that do, but I think the majority of them.
I was just going to say the best doctors that I work with, the best surgeons that I work with, are always learning and doing research and finding new ways to improve themselves. Those are the best doctors. The ones that aren't the best are the ones that sit back and say, listen, I'm an MD. I know how to do this. I know how to do that. And they become complacent. My best surgeons are the ones who are always trying to figure out the best solution for their patients. Okay. What's new? What's out there? What are some new products I can provide for my patients? Research, putting together research papers are very important in the orthopedic world. So that's like going from the complacency thing. That's what separates a lot of these guys and gals on who's the best and who's just kind of half-assing.
Yeah. But when it comes down to yourself and you're sick and you're going through all this, and if it's something physical that limits you and you can't go out and exercise, I know from my experience, it was meditation that got me through that. And specifically, Owen, you mentioned that when something happens to us, we're men, we're fathers, we need to take care of our family. We need to figure out what's going on and fix it right away so we can get back to being on top and doing things for our family. Is that accurate? You guys felt that way too?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Not at all.
it's when you have these things put in front of you that you can't go through, you have no choice but to let go. We hold on so tight that we want to fix things. And you know what? The universe or God or whatever the fuck put something in our way to teach us a lesson to let go, because we're not in control. And that's what meditation helped me with. I would get out of these meditations and I'd be like, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm not in control.
You know, and what's really what I took, you know, you'd hate things like this hard thing to make you open your eyes to certain things in your life. But sometimes, you know, bad things happen and it opens up, you know, some more clarity in your head. And what it did for me was, you know, I'm not Superman. I'm not 23 years old. I'm not 18 years old anymore. I have a child. I have a family. And what this did for me was say, listen, I'm not here forever, right? So instead of getting myself concerned and trying to figure out how to fix it, what I did was I took that time and effort that I would put into that, and I spent more time with my son. You know, it really dumbs things down. Like, you could be so successful, you could make all this money, you could have this big house, but at the end of the day, there's two things that are always matter. And if you don't have these two things, you don't have anything: your family and your health.
Yeah.
And health scare with me was a major eye opener to say, I can't do anything if I'm not healthy. I can't sell all this stuff. I can't be successful. I can't do this. I can't hang out with my son if I'm not healthy. You know, and my dad has preached this from day one. My dad played in the NFL, had a really bad upbringing family-wise, and he always teaches me this, is that it's health, family, work. I don't give a crap what's going on anywhere else. Those two things are going to take you through. If you have those things on lockdown, family and health, that's really all you need. Everything else is kind of like, it's not BS, but everything else is kind of just, it's here. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think, you know, part of getting through a mental situation is your social circle for certain. I know it was in mine, you know, and again, as men, we tend to bottle things up and just kind of charge forward. You know, we don't share a lot of things with people. But when you get to a situation where you're desperate, all those people start coming out of the woodwork because they love you and they're there for you, you know. And I know in my situation, you know, my wife, my two kids, my two stepchildren, my parents, and then there was that, you know, that was the core people that were around me. And then there was three other people, you know, I had a spiritual lady, you know, that helped me through a lot of stuff. I had my sister who had dealt with a lot of anxiety issues and kind of figured out ways to self-heal herself, helped me a lot. And then lucky me, I actually had a cousin who's probably one of the top urologists in the country who I could reach out to and ask questions. And, you know, a lot of it was this scientific stuff, these odds, you know, and just being able to talk to him, because, you know, back to the doctors, they give you a diagnosis of stuff and they ramp your fears up again. You know, there's not a lot of content or perspective to it. It's just like, okay, you have a 1 in 25 chance that you're going to lose your other ball. See you later. Yeah, well, we'll see you in the next one. Schedule another appointment. You know, but luckily I could reach out to my cousin to get more perspective on it, and I was very, very lucky for that. So your social circle is important for your mental.
Yeah, and too, you know, me, Mark, you chime in. I feel like Mark's got a bunch of stuff he wants to say, but
I'm just enjoying the conversation, fellas. I'll get in.
I just want to get on here and just tell whoever's listening, I just want to talk about my story very quickly. Okay. So I'm we're very healthy people. Maybe I could lose 10 pounds, whatever, but I had the stomach bug, and I was puking this was like 6 or 7 weeks ago. I was puking violently for 3 days. So my work wanted a doctor's note because I was out for 3 days. Oh, fine, no worries. So I go down to urgent care down the road to get his doctor's note. And I get in there, and the woman listens to my heart, the doctor, and face goes as pale as a piece of paper, as white. And she goes, EKG immediately, there's something wrong with your heart. And she goes, I think you had a heart attack. So I'm freaking out. Okay. So they hook me up to an EKG, and my EKG is all over the place. So she goes, you need to go to the hospital. I think you had a heart attack. And I'm in panic mode. And she's like, I don't want you to drive there. Do you need to get an ambulance? And I was like, ambulance? I was like, I just have the shits. Like I have the shit. I'm throwing up and I have the shits. Like, why do I need an ambulance? But so I was like, no, my wife can pick me up. So I had to sign this waiver to say, we offered him an ambulance. He declined. If he dies on the way, we're not liable. So when I signed that, I was like, well, this is real shit right now. So I'm outside and waiting for my wife, and she can't get me because my son's like acting up. So I said, fuck it. I drove myself. Drive to Danbury Hospital. And I get there, they hook me up, blah, 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 take all these blood tests, all this stuff. And they come back and say, listen, you didn't have a heart attack. Everything is fine. I'm like, great, I can go home. No, you can't go home. The cardiologist wants to look at your heart. Okay. So cardiologist does an echocardiogram. And in Danbury Hospital, I can see them sitting at their desks in my bed. So I see them do it, and I see them talking about what's going on with me. So I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. So they come in, the two of them, he goes, listen, you need to stay overnight. We got to do more tests. He's like, there's something wrong with your pulmonary valve, and there's something really wrong with your aortic valve. And I'm just like, I do nothing about the heart at that point. So I want to get on here and talk about this because I think it's important for people who maybe think they're in really good shape, aren't getting physicals and aren't doing that. I was in that boat. So I get to the hospital, I stay overnight. They do a more intense echocardiogram. And the cardiologist comes back and says, listen, you have aortic valve disease. And I'm just like, what is that? And basically what happens is the blood goes into your lungs, gets oxygenated, comes down into your left ventricle. Your left ventricle, let's say hypothetically, takes 20 ounces. I'm just throwing a number out there. Pumps it up, goes through your aortic valve that opens up, shoots through your aorta, and goes to the rest of your body. Now, I was born with a bicuspid aortic valve, which means that instead of having 3 flaps, I only have 2 flaps. Okay, so it doesn't work correctly. So what I have is called aortic regurgitation, where the blood will shoot up, but since it's not closing and opening correctly, the blood comes down back into the left ventricle, and that causes stress on your heart. Now, the next day when I was there, I got a cardiac catheterization where they put the catheter up into your heart and pump blue dye. And after that test, there's something called an ejection fraction, which is very important in the heart world. Basically, someone who has a healthy heart, those 20 ounces, I'm just throwing this number out, 75% of those 20 ounces is going to get pumped to the rest of your body. That's a healthy heart. When I left Danbury Hospital, mine was at 50. Okay. And anything below 50, you need surgery. Okay. You have to get the valve replaced, or you're going to build what they call aortic stenosis, where calcium builds up on the flaps because it wasn't built correctly. And calcium's rock solid. It's hard as a rock, and it slowly closes. And that's how people go into cardiac arrest. So for me, I left the hospital with very little clarity. All I knew was that I need a valve replacement. Okay. I'm at 50%. Okay. And I didn't get much from the doctors. It was very unclear. And they wanted me to get an MRI. Now, a cardiac MRI, I don't know, Mark, have you gotten one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're nuts. I mean, for 90 minutes, I basically had to breathe in, breathe out, hold my breath for 3 seconds, do that a few times, then 6, then 9. I think I went all the way up to 20 something, then back down for 90 minutes. But the way they can get the best picture of your heart is when you're not breathing. So I get out of there and I'm dripping sweat, blah, blah, blah. And the girl's like, I got great pictures, unbelievable pictures. So I see my cardiologist the next day and he says, basically the pictures that he got, it looked like someone had taken my heart out, was looking at it. Like this is 4K, they could see everything. And it turns out that ejection fraction is actually at 59, right? But I still have aortic valve disease and it's still going to deteriorate, but I'm not going to need a replacement until maybe 5 years. I don't know. It depends. I have to get checkups every year, etc., to make sure that the valve is okay. But just going back for about a month, that meditations helped me out was like, you have this huge thing happen to you. And you walk out with these doctors saying, well, it could be this, it could be that. You have no clarity. And for me, that was the hardest part, not having any clarity. I knew something was wrong, but they didn't know exactly what was wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then finally,
100%.
and he showed me all this stuff. Finally, I had some clarity. Now, for us, that was very good news because my wife and I had COVID. I had COVID twice. We went through some crazy stuff this year. And to tack heart surgery on it just was going to make things we would have got through it, but just a lot harder. So that's kind of
cherry on top for your years. Open heart surgery.
Open heart, yeah. Just everything that's going on. By the way, you're gonna have to get open heart when this is all said and done. But just kind of getting on here and letting people know that your health is really, really important because if you don't have it, you really don't have anything else. I mean, you have your family, and Chris, like you were talking about, when this was going on, you kind of realize who's like in your, not that people aren't in your corner, but who's really in your corner, right? Like who, you talk about, oh, these people are in my circle, but like who's really in your circle?
Yep.
And as I've gotten older, my circle has gotten smaller, which I'm okay with that. I just need my family, a couple close friends, and that's it.
As I talk with my kids about friends, it's like, I'm like, listen, you need like 3 or 4 really close friends. And what I mean by that is like, you can call them up at 2:00 in the morning. They'll drop whatever's going on in their life and they will help you. They'll either come to wherever you're at in the world or they'll talk with you. I mean, and that's always been, my definition of a close friend,
Yeah, exactly.
And
Go ahead.
as you get older, you cut the peripheral bullshit away. Like, at 50, if I want to hang out with you, I want to hang out with you. If I don't want to hang out with you, I don't. And it's nothing personal. It's like I do things with my off time that I like doing. And most of it's spending time with my friends and family.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot. It's like, if the people that are in your life right now are in the way of you getting towards where you need to go and causing you to take a step forward and take 2 steps back, then that's a problem. Like, it's harsh to say you have to eliminate those people, but if they're not helping you get to where you have to go, then do you really want them in your life? I mean, yeah, they can be acquaintances, but your close friends and the people that are around you are the people that need to be pushing you, saying, Owen, you're going to get through this. This is what's happening. Let me connect you with this person. Talk to me. Call me. If I need to talk to you at 2:00 in the morning, that's it. It's like I've realized so much about people probably in the last 6 weeks that I guess who's real and who's not real. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Definitely. Definitely. The funny thing, getting back to that cardiac MRI, when I got mine like a decade, 15 years ago. So I had to go into New York City, and the technician was from Eastern European. So he had an accent. So I couldn't understand a damn word he said. So he didn't tell me how the test was going to go. He was like, I'm going to tell you to inhale. I'm going to tell you to exhale. When I tell you to exhale, you're going to have to hold it until I tell you to inhale again. And this went on for like you said, this went on for like 30, 45 minutes, an hour. Like, so he'd be like, exhale. And I'm like, you're in a tube, you're in the MRI tube. And you're like, okay, can I breathe yet? And there was like one time that I had to inhale because I was going to pass out. He was like, all right, we got to do that. We got to do that one again. I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I was about to pass out. I said to the nurse after, I'm like, how does anyone, because a majority of these people that are getting these cardiac MRIs aren't 38. I'm like, how does a 70-year-old do this or a 75-year-old do this? She's like, they don't. They go off of what the cardiac catheterization said. And I don't know, have you ever gotten one of those tests, Mark, where they put the catheter up? They put it up my wrist, but normally I think they go up the groin.
The times that they've gone up my groin, they've gone to like take care of the AFib. So
okay, yeah.
The first time they froze it, and then the second time they went up and they heated it, and the second time they're like, it's gonna hurt a little bit more. You're gonna have a little more like a heartburn sensation. And I was like, I don't care. I just don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. The funny story about that, I don't know what's going on with my lighting here, but I look really dark right now. What happened there is a funny story.
Maybe can you close the blinds behind you? Maybe it's the light coming in from behind you.
Better. Oh, that's
there you go.
But when you get the cardiac catheterization, they give you meds like sleeping or whatever, something to relax you. And most people go to sleep. And the nurse was like, because I was really concerned that they were going to find a blockage. And the guy was like, if there's a blockage, I'm putting a stent in. So I was like, so nervous about that. So the nurse is like pumping me with like these drugs. And she's like, are you okay? Like, I've given you like double or triple the amount I normally give someone. I was like, listen, don't even worry about that. No, I don't care what you give me. Nothing is going to like make me go to sleep. I need to know what's going on here, So I was like, I'm an elephant right now. You can just keep pumping me with nothing's going to change. I'm not going to go to sleep.
See, I went the other way with all my hard stuff. I would go in and they'd give me the Michael Jackson cocktail, and I'd go to sleep. They put a pat on my front, pat on my back, zap me, and I wake up 10 minutes later and all right, see you in a month.
Right.
I think one of the things that actually a recent experience for me that I want to talk to people who are going through mental issues connected to physical disease or something that you have going on. And I'm sure you guys have been through this too. The techniques that we're using, just like anything else, it's like playing a sport or working out. It requires practice, and you're going to have step backs, so Mark knows this, the past 2 weeks, I've been on edge again because I thought I was having an issue in my other testicle. Test just came back last night. I'm okay. Thumbs up. Well, double thumbs up for you guys. One thumbs up for me. So anyways, it was a little bit of a step back. I started having anxiety again. I started thinking about things. I started reading again, but I had already had that mental software upgrade, so I was equipped mentally, and I had techniques to use to kind of get me through this.
Yeah.
But it's if you have ongoing issues, it's a building process. It's not going to happen overnight. You got to be aware.
You got
of
to
it.
practice it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to do it every day. It's hard. It's not easy. You know, I tell my wife about the meditation. The meditation is really difficult, but if you can stick with it, it's tremendous what it does because really what it does is it brings you into the present moment in a world where everyone is just trying to move as fast as possible. You know, like if you just sit back and dumb it down, even with my son, it's like, you know, you dumb it down. He's like learning how to talk and like work, you know, my wife is giving me aja about getting off, but
Wrap it up.
if we can pick a time to do another like part 2, because I feel like we have so much more to talk about.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. You know, just a little plug for one of our previous podcasts. We had Dr. Brent Denkin on, who's a sports psychologist, and he talked about the physiology that actually happens when you do meditation. And you take literally the energy from your amygdala, which is, Mark, help me if I butcher this, which is in the back of your brain, and it's, you know, a ancient structure. It's reptilian. You take the energy from there, and you know it has to do with survival and fear and that type of thing, and you move it to your left prefrontal cortex, which has to do with happiness. So you're literally shifting your brain, the different parts of your brain that are stimulated from one of fear and survival to just being in the present moment and being happy.
Yeah. So as far as the brain goes, the part I know is the medulla oblongata, and that's because of you know, my man Adam Sandler. Exactly.
Oh yeah, Adam Sandler.
Exactly, the medulla oblongata.
Happiness is little rays of sunshine that come down when you're feeling blue.
Right.
Guys, the way I looked at it, and I know we got to cut it soon. You know, with all my physical, with all the things that I've gone through, I looked at it as somebody just tapping me on the shoulder and being like, "Yo, you need to slow down." Like, and you need to Control Alt Delete it. You know, for those people that are familiar with computers, like I just needed to reboot and like, hey, dummy, like you're focusing on the wrong things.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, now that I can look back and I'm like, yeah, I wasn't present. I wasn't where I needed to be. I was always worried about the next thing. Like, okay, I'm here, but I want to be here. Well, but you're here, so you need to worry about being here, and then getting to there will take care of itself.
Yeah.
You know, some people, and especially in today's society, everybody's worried about the next thing. Well, you're not going to get to the next thing if you don't worry about where you presently are at. You know, all the people that I've worked with have been like, Mark, you need to do the job that you're doing at the highest level possible, and that will get you to where you want to get to. But if you're worried about where you're getting to, you're not going to take care of what you need to take care of in order to get there.
The future is an illusion. The only thing that's guaranteed right now is this moment.
This moment. Guys,
Owen, take us out. Last thoughts, and let everyone know where they can contact you, socials, websites, that type of thing.
Yeah. So listen, I want to do a part 2 because I have so much more to talk. I shaved my head.
Attaboy.
Looking good.
Welcome to the club.
My wife is giving me death stares. Listen, I want to do a part 2. I want you guys on my podcast. Go check out, it's at Mental Strength Project on Instagram. Just go check that out. I appreciate you guys having me on. I really do.
Awesome.
One last thing, because all the former athletes that we've had on get to tell one Coach Spellman story that they still remember or they found funny. So go.
The worst Spellman story was freshman year coming in pre-camp. And I think we had a run around that dirt track. Like it felt like 1,000 times. And I also remember too, just sophomore year in college, coming back and having to run those 1,600-yard dashes on that cement, you know, the cement field we had. It got up like 120 degrees. And those were fun.
That's medieval, Spellman. Medieval.
Medieval, yeah. But
Owen, it's been a pleasure, getting to know you more as an individual and as a husband, a father, and as a person. We're
absolutely.
definitely gonna do it. We're gonna definitely do a number 2. What's up, big fella?
My little guy.
Hey there.
And Tony, he's going to be a strong safety.
There you go.
All right, guys, I
Awesome.
appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks for
Owen.
coming on, Owen. Great to meet you, man.
Chris, thanks so much.
You
Bye.
got it.
All my best,
Everyone
brother.
else,
God bless.
check us out. Well, he's gone.
Keep going.
Check us out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, a bunch of others. If you want to be on the show, info@athletehackers.com. I'm Chris Schrade.
And I am Mark Spellman. As always, all my best. God bless. Keep getting after it. Be better today so you can be better tomorrow. Peace.
Peace.